This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This recording is by Mark Smith of Simpsonville, South Carolina. Americans All, Immigrants All, by the United States Department of the Interior, Office of Education. Section 1. The Programs and Their Purpose. The Americans All, Immigrants All programs are designed to promote a more appreciative understanding of our growing American culture through the dramatization of the contributions made by the many groups which are a part of it. What brought people to this country from the four corners of the earth? What gifts did they bear? What were their problems? What problems remain unsolved? This series dramatically presents the story of Americans All, Immigrants All. Number 1. Opening frontiers. New trails are blazed, frontiers are pushed westward, and foundations of our great democracy are laid by newcomers from across the seas. Number 2. Our English heritage. Rich experiences in self-government and basic liberties are introduced by the English in colonizing the northern Atlantic seaboard. Number 3. Our Hispanic heritage. The Spaniards build missions and bring Andalusian cattle and horses into the Southwest. Number 4. Scots, Scotch-Irish, and Welsh. Sturdy Scotch-Irish and Scots, vanguard of march to the west, settle along frontiers. The Welsh, lovers of song, discover coal and develop our minds. Number 5. Winning freedom. Through cooperation and willingness to sacrifice both wealth and life, colonists win independence and preserve priceless principles and ideals. Number 6. The Negro. From early colonial days, the Negro, who composes 1/10 of our population, plays a large part in our economic and artistic life. Number 7. The French and Netherlanders. French fur traders and missionaries pioneered the Mississippi Valley. Netherlanders settle on Manhattan Island. French Canadians work in lumber camps and mills of New England. Diamond cutters come from Belgium, and French-speaking Swiss build up our cheese industry. Number 8. Upsurge of democracy. Frontiersmen and newcomers unite to bring about decline of aristocracy. Eastern wage earners march in the ranks of the new democracy. Number 9. The Irish. Sons of old Ireland develop canals, railroads, and factories, enter the ranks of public service, and bring song, humor, and literature of a high order. Number 10. The Germans. The Germans, Protestant, Catholic, and Jew, push frontiers westward, fashion the Kentucky rifle, build Switzer barn and Conestoga wagons, and develop agriculture, forestry, music, art, education, and science. Number 11. The Scandinavians. Swedes, Norwegians, and Finns settle north-central states, introducing log cabins, cooperatives, progressive dairy methods, social consciousness, gymnastics, and folk high schools. Number 12. Closing frontiers. When there is no more good free land to settle, immigrants crowd into our cities to supply demand for unskilled labor. Number 13. The Jews. Participating in American life since early colonial days, the Jews make significant contributions to science, industry, music, literature, theater, law, medicine, and philanthropy. 14 and 15. The Slavs. The Slavs, northern and southern, succeed in making abandoned farms productive and work in our mines, steel mills, automobile factories, packing houses, and forests. Number 16. The Orientals. Chinese and Japanese bring artistic sensitivity of Far East. Chinese answer call of railroad, ranch, and factory. Japanese reclaim California swamps and develop farms. Number 17. The Italians. Early explorers and artisans come from Italy, helped to build grape and wine industry, work in our marble quarries, raise vegetables, and help to build railroads, bridges, and highways. Number 18, Near Eastern people. Armenians, Greeks, and Syrians bring philosophy, poetry, medical skill, manual skills, and unique artistic sense. Number 19, Other peoples. Hungarians, Romanians, Portuguese, Bulgarians, Lithuanians, Estonians, and Latvians bring ideas, labor, fine traditions, and aesthetic values. Number 20, Contributions in industry. Each wave of immigration contributes brain and brawn to American life. Group cooperation makes the United States leader of world industry. Number 21, Contributions in science. Our country is in the forefront of scientific progress due to brilliance and inventive genius of individuals of diverse racial and national origins. Number 22, Arts and crafts. Cultural value of artistic gifts by immigrant groups since the early colonial days is a priceless gift enriching the United States of today and tomorrow. Number 23, social progress. Champions of human freedom, drawn from many groups, preserve and develop ideals for which the founding fathers fought and died. Number 24, a New England town. The New England town, founded by early settlers, changes and develops as new groups participate and function in its life. Number 25, an industrial city. A panorama of a rapidly changing industrial city, peopled by groups drawn from many nations who learn the American way of democratic life. Number 26, grand finale. In a thrilling climax, outstanding people of various cultural backgrounds from different parts of our country summarize the story of Americans All, Immigrants All. End of section. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This recording is by Mark Smith of Simpsonville, South Carolina. Americans All, Immigrants All, by the United States Department of the Interior, Office of Education. Section 2, What Brought Us to the United States? Have you ever played with a magnet and a bunch of iron filings? Wasn't it amazing to see the bits of iron leap across space to reach and cling to the magnet? This story is about a magnet much larger and more powerful than you have ever imagined. One 3,000 miles long and 1,500 miles wide. A different kind of magnet, too, one that attracted not iron filings but human beings, real live people. A magnet that attracted every type and variety of human being alive. White people, black people, yellow people, Catholics, Protestants, Huguenots, Quakers, Baptists, Methodists, Unitarians, Jews, Spaniards, Danes, Chinese, Japanese, Dutch, Bohemians, Italians, Austrians, Slavs, Poles, Romanians, Russians, and I've only just begun. Farmers, miners, adventurers, soldiers, sailors, rich men, poor men, beggarmen, thieves, shoemakers, tailors, actors, musicians, ministers, engineers, writers, singers, ditch diggers, manufacturers, butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers. That magnet was America. From We the People by Leo Huberman. Ever since the dawn of history, man has been on the move, restlessly seeking new environments in an effort to satisfy his physical and other needs. In the main, his wanderings have been local in character, highlighted by occasional mass migrations which have had a marked effect upon the history of the world. Among such mass migrations may be cited the migration of the Israelites from Palestine to Egypt, of the Germanic tribes into the Roman Empire, of the Saxons and Danes to England, of the Moors from the north of Africa to Spain, and of the Mongols and the Tartars from the Orient to Central Asia. Great as these migrations were, and important as their effect was on the course of history, they did not compare with the stream of humanity that began to flow to this country early in the 17th century, a stream that assumed flood proportions toward the close of the 19th century. Not only did the movement of peoples to our shores differ in magnitude from other migrations, it also differed in character. Whereas earlier mass migrations had consisted of the movements of tribes and distinct racial groups, the migration to the New World consisted of men of all races, nations, and creeds, a pageant of all the nations. Great historic freedoms. What motives impelled these people to uproot themselves from their homelands and to transport themselves to a country where it was necessary to adjust themselves to a new environment and culture pattern? Many came for the love of adventure, answering the challenge of the unknown. Some were mercenary soldiers seeking new exploits. Others came because they were friendless down-and-outers and ne'er-do-wells, seeking a chance to begin life anew. There were still others, like the Negroes, who, although the majority did not come of their own free will, nevertheless contributed toil and labor to the making of America. Commercial enterprise and the hope of economic gain have, of course, been important factors in the peopling of our country. So also has the search for freedom. In fact, the cherished moral ideals and objectives of the immigrants laid the foundations of our democratic ideals. These great historic freedoms include 1. Religious liberty, freedom of conscience. 2. Personal and political liberty, freedom from political tyranny and oppression. 3. Economic liberty, freedom to use brain, brawn, and initiative to earn the best living possible. 4. Intellectual liberty, freedom of opinion, speech, assembly, and press. 5. Cultural liberty, freedom to establish institutions and to practice certain traditions and customs. The search for human freedom can be advanced with historical warrant as the basic reason for the presence in this country of about 130 million people. Without question, this is the common denominator of our democracy. Religious liberty. The vanguard of those seeking refuge from religious persecution arrived on the Mayflower and settled in Plymouth, Massachusetts. John Winthrop founded the Massachusetts Bay Colony as a refuge for Puritans. Maryland, later on, became the haven for persecuted Catholics. Rhode Island was founded by Roger Williams and his group of independent religious freethinkers. Here, the Quakers found a ready welcome, and the Jews, driven out of Europe, were allowed to build their synagogues. Toward the end of the 17th century, William Penn and his Quaker followers settled in Pennsylvania and cultivated the most friendly relationships with Indians, colonists, and new settlers alike. To Manhattan Island and South Carolina came the French Huguenots, a group of French Protestants whose guarantee of religious liberty had been revoked by the Edict of Nantes. During the 19th century, one of the early acts of the Mormons after settling in Utah was to contribute money toward building a Catholic church. Personal and political liberty. To escape political tyranny and oppression, thousands of people left their homes and crossed the Atlantic. Following their unsuccessful rebellion against the English, the Irish came in large numbers. So did the Germans when the Revolution of 1848 failed. Likewise, the Jews left Russia toward the close of the 19th century in order to escape intolerable conditions. Among the great champions of personal liberty has been Thomas Paine, who turned the tide of victory during the Revolutionary War when he declared, "This is the cause for which we are ready to suffer and to die, freedom for ourselves and the rest of the world." Another outstanding champion of personal liberty was Karl Schurz, one of the German 48ers who supported men of principles and worthy causes regardless of political affiliations. Economic liberty. Coupled with other motives, the newcomer has almost always been imbued with the hope of making a livelihood, or of making profits for himself or for his employers. The first permanent settlement was established at Jamestown by the London Company to profit from gold mining and trade. New Hampshire was founded by George and Mason for the purpose of profit from trade and farming. The Carolinas were founded by a group of nobles for the same purpose. It was a similar motive which led the Swedes to settle on the Delaware, the Netherlanders to settle on Manhattan, the English to conquer New Amsterdam, and Berkeley and Carteret to settle New Jersey. It was the hope of gain which brought the French to Louisiana and the Spaniards to Florida, New Mexico, and California. Likewise, at the close of the 19th century, it was the high wages and high standards of living which attracted the tide of people who poured in from South and Eastern Europe. Intellectual liberty. The fight of man to establish freedom of opinion, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly is as old as man himself. For the last 200 years, his fight for the freedom of the press has been equally important. Peter Zenger, who founded the New York Weekly Journal in 1733, registered a great triumph for the freedom of the press when he won his fight against Governor Cosby of New York. Men of strong principles and ideas have always clashed with those who would mold them to a definite pattern and so enslave their minds. In this country, the thoughts and ideas of all men may be expressed freely and analyzed by everybody. Cultural liberty. The United States has been greatly enriched as the result of cultural liberty. Here, the immigrant has often found the opportunity to practice and pass on to others those customs and traditions which have been handed down to him by his ancestors. The Christmas tree, Easter bunny, and New Year festivities are German in origin. Many of the festivals in California and the rodeo are Spanish in origin. Singing societies, folk dancing, games, cookery, and home life have been enriched by customs introduced from other lands. Immigration has indeed proved to be a wind that blows democratic ideas through the world. End of section.